This will be Chapter 13's most missed questions on the exam. First question, they want to know what are the incremental costs of the Western tour. Now, I'm going to give you a lot more elaborate answer than what the answer is required, but I'm hoping you'll get a little bit better foundation of what these differential costs and revenues really mean here. So here we go. Again, like I said, my explanation is longer than a textbook solution, but here's the explanation. First of all, some definitions. A differential revenue is a revenue that varies with every alternative. A differential cost, and that's what they want to know here, the differential cost, is a cost that varies with every alternative. And if differential revenues are higher than differential costs, then you should go ahead and do this project. If differential costs are higher than the differential revenues, then it's a no-go. So if your revenues are higher than your costs, do it. If your costs are higher than your revenues, don't do it. Now, again, they don't want all this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. If you're looking at the difference between Western Tour and Eastern Tour, the differential revenue, Western versus Eastern, that is Western versus Eastern, is a plus 3,000. They have 3,000 more in differential revenue than Eastern does. The differential cost of Western versus Eastern, that's 7,000 in differential cost for Western versus 1,000 for differential cost for Eastern. So therefore, that's $6,000 in costs that Western is higher than Eastern. Fixed costs, there's no difference. And in profit, you can look at that and you can see that the differential Western versus Eastern, that the profits are lower by 3,000, so there it's a no-go. Now, that's all that said, here's what the answer that the textbook wants. The differential cost, that's this right here, of Western versus Eastern would be 7,000 compared to 1,000, so that means the differential cost of Western are $6,000 higher. All right, in this problem, XYZ company is trying to decide which of the two alternatives it will accept. The costs and the revenues associated with each alternative are listed below, and the question, all it wants to know is what is the differential revenue for this decision. The differential revenue for this decision is the differential revenue between A and B, and that happens to be 190,000 compared to 260,000. So it looks like the differential revenues are $70,000. XYZ company purchased a raffle ticket for $20. Just before the grand prize drawing, two people tried to buy her ticket. Well, uh-oh, we got a little problem here. XYZ and her, well, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So in a version of this that I hand out to my live classes in a notebook form, I have asked the class to change your notebook from XYZ to Zelda. So you don't have to do that if you don't have a notebook, but you can just see I'll do it here, right? So I'll say Zelda here purchased a raffle ticket for $20. Just for the grand prize, two people tried to buy her ticket. The first person offered $85 and another offered $120. So what is Zelda's opportunity cost of keeping the raffle ticket? Well, her opportunity cost is going to be she can either keep the ticket and possibly win something on this raffle, or she could have gotten $120 for it. That's the highest offer they had, so that the opportunity cost for her is the sacrifice that is incurred in order to obtain the alternative opportunity, which in this case was $120. So Zelda's opportunity cost is $120. We're going to shift gears now and look at special offers, whether or not a company should take a special offer on a job or not. So XYZ Incorporated cleans and waxes floors for commercial customers. The company is presently operating at less than capacity. That's very key to understanding that what's going on right there. That means they could take on more work if they wanted to, and it wouldn't affect their fixed overhead. That's what that means. Now, so the company is presently operating at less than capacity, with equipment and employees idle at times. The company recently received an order from a potential customer outside the company's normal geographic service region for a price of $9,000. So they've agreed to do this work, or at least potentially agreed to do this work, for $9,000. At least they're going to run it by us. We're the accountants, and we're going to see if it makes any sense to go ahead and do this job. And the revenue on this job is going to be $9,000. The size of the proposed job is 22,000 square feet. The company's normal service costs are as follows. Now, like I said, since this company is operating at less than capacity, the only thing that's relevant here are variable costs. That is variable revenue, the revenue, and compare that to variable costs. And in this problem, they're going to call those variable costs incremental costs. That is the change because of this order. So, again, operating at less than capacity, the company will not incur any added fixed costs for the special order, and you're supposed to then compare only the differential revenue, which is this $9,000, to any differential costs. So, again, this factory level overhead allocated at 10 cents per square foot, that's only relevant if we were operating at capacity, but we're not. So that is not information that we don't need to use. So the budgeted cost for production of 22,000 square feet, that is this special order, would be as follows. You'd have revenue of $9,000, right? You would have materials, and materials are 18 cents per square foot. And if we're going to think that this job is 22,000 square feet, then the materials used for this job would be 18 cents times 22,000, or that cost would be $3,960. The labor, again, which is another direct labor variable cost, will be 25 cents per square foot times 22,000 square feet, or $5,500. And the variable overhead would be another 8 cents times 22,000, or $1,760. And you can see already that if we think that the price of this job was $9,000, the variable expenses associated with this job would be $11,220. So you wouldn't want to do this. That is, unless if there's some other reason other than cost, you might want to do it. But it doesn't make any sense on paper to do this because you're going to lose $2,220. So the other costs are not relevant because the company would incur these fixed overhead up here. One reason why you might want to do this, by the way, the answer is a minus 2220. That's what we're looking for. But why might you want to do something like this? Well, you might want to do this to maybe get future business from this company that's out of this region, and maybe you do a little bit of it below cost, and then later on you start making money on other jobs. That might be a reason why you do this. This problem deals with special orders. The XYZ company produces and sells a desktop speaker for $220. So that's their selling price, $220. The company has the capacity to produce 62,000 speakers each period. Maybe that's a year or a month, whatever. At capacity, the cost assigned to each unit are as follows. And this is something you're going to look in your textbook to see the definitions of these things, but we're looking at unit level cost of 105, product level cost of 27, facility level cost of 17. And we'll talk about these more in just a second. The company has received a special order for 13,000 speakers. If this order is accepted, the company will have to spend an additional $22,000 on added costs. Assuming that no sales to regular customers will be lost if the order is accepted, at what selling price will the company be indifferent between accepting or rejecting the special order? Another way to say that would be, what's the lowest amount they could sell these speakers for and not lose anything? So they want you to round your answer to 2 decimal places. Now, the unit level cost of 105, that's the cost to make a single product, in this case these speakers. So they're selling these for $220. They can make them for $105, and that cost of $105 is relevant. The product level cost, and when you look this up in your book, you're going to see that these are costs incurred to support different kinds of products. They're unavoidable whether we take this special order or not, so they're not relevant in this calculation. And facility level cost, again, in your book, you'll see that this is a cost incurred on behalf of the whole company. It's unavoidable and it's not relevant. It might be something like a marketing cost or some administrative cost or something, but it's not something that's directly a cost of the specific product we're making, which is really only $105. Now, these two product level and facility level costs are not relevant. We're not going to include these in our calculations, but let's go forward. The company has received a special order for 13,000 speakers. If the order is accepted, the company will spend $22,000 additional on additional costs. Okay, so the budget for making 13,000 speakers are going to be as follows. You're going to have the unit level cost, that's that 105 times the 13,000 special order, which means these speakers, if you do this special order, are going to cost $1,365,000. That's the cost of these. Other incremental cost, we said that if you take this order, they have to spend an additional $22,000. Okay, so there it is. And so the relevant cost in this situation is $1,387,000. Now, as I said earlier, the other costs are not relevant because the company will incur them whether they accept the order or not. So, at a minimum, the company would need to earn revenue of $1,387,000 to be indifferent to whether they accept or reject this special order. The per unit price could be calculated as follows. You would take the total costs that are going to be out, $1,387,000, divide that by 13,000 units, and you can see that these units are costing them $106,069, and that would be the price, the minimum price. You might say that'd be their break-even price. Now, again, if you normally sell these units for $220 and you're, for this special order, you're only going to ask $106.69, why would you do that? Well, there's, like I said, you might do it just to get in on the ground floor of getting some more business from this company. There may be some other reasons, but that might be one of the more common reasons. And so I would have to look long and hard before I would lower my price a lot more than what this normal selling price is, but apparently that's what they want to know in this answer. Okay, this is a make or buy situation here. XYZ company currently outsources a relay switch that is a component of one of its products. The switch costs $39 each, and they buy them from somebody else for $39 a piece. The company is considering making the switches internally at the following projected annual production costs. That would be unit level material cost, $8, unit level labor cost, $7, unit level overhead, which is $6. These are all variable expenses and go up and down with whether you make these or buy these. Then we have batch level setup cost, which is per 7,000 units in a batch. That's going to cost you $49,000. You're going to incur that cost if you decide to make these. Then we have product level supervisory salaries. You're going to need a supervisor there if you make these, $49,500. And then allocated facility level cost, $44,000. This is the only cost that's not going to be relevant here in this decision. The company expects an annual need of 7,000 switches. If the company makes the product, it will have to utilize factory space currently being leased to another company for $3,900 a month. And this means they're going to have to kick somebody out of a space that they're renting out to somebody, and they're getting $3,900 a month for this leased space. But if they kick them out, that's where they're going to use that space to make these new switches. So if the company decides to make the part, total cost will be what if they decide to make the part? Well, it'll be these unit level costs, like I said, that vary up and down: material, labor, and overhead times 7,000, which is $147,000. And if we buy these switches, we're looking at $39 a switch times 7,000 units, or $273,000. Okay. Also, if we make these switches, in addition to these material, labor, and overhead differences, we're also going to have batch level cost. We're going to have a startup cost to making these things. It'll add another $49,000 to this. And we're also going to have to add a supervisor to watch over this production line, and that's $49,500. And then we're looking at, when we kick out this tenant that we've got, that's going to cost money that we're going to lose the opportunity of getting, which is another cost to making this product, which would be $3,900 times 12 months for a year. So that's another $46,800. So it looks like the total relevant costs to making these switches would be $292,300 versus buying them, which is going to be $273,000. So it looks like it's cheaper to buy them than it is to make them. So again, the allocated factory level cost right here, $44,000, are not relevant because the company will incur them whether they accept or reject this special order situation. Now, if the company decides to make these parts, the total will be $19,300 more to make them than if they were to purchase them. So why would you ever want to do that? Well, one reason might be, well, a couple of reasons. One, they want to make sure they can always get these switches. Sometimes maybe this supplier that they're getting them from can't make enough of them. That's one thing. Another thing would be maybe they think they can make them at a higher, better quality, and they can control the quality better if they control the manufacturing versus the other supplier. That may be a couple of reasons. Okay, this will be our last problem in the review, and this is another should we buy it or should we make it kind of problem. So XYZ currently outsources an electrical switch that is a component of its sprinkler systems. The switches are purchased for $26 a piece. That's what they can buy them for. The company is considering making the switches internally and has conducted a study to determine the cost involved. The costs below are projected annual production cost. So we've got material cost, labor cost, and overhead cost. These are per unit cost. Okay, and then we've got batch level costs, which every time we put together a batch of these things, we had to do a setup and so on and so forth. And this is going to cost us $14,000 for every 8,000 units that we make in a batch. That's a setup cost, batch cost. Then if we make these, we'll also have to have a supervisor to oversee this production, which is going to cost us $42,000. And just like the last question we had, the allocated facility level cost of $29,000 are not relevant for this decision. Okay. Assume that the company needs 16,000 of these switches. Remember, they can buy them for $26 a piece, and they need 16,000 of them, which would be produced in two batches. Yes, we get two batch costs right there. Assume also that the company will be operating within the relevant range, that is, they don't incur any additional fixed costs. And if the name of this company is XYZ Company, and I think on a handout I had the company's name was Safety. So I've written over the top of that to call it XYZ. So here we go. If you had a notebook, which you do or don't have, whatever, then at this point in time I'd say, okay, now you need to change this word to XYZ. So if XYZ, that's the name of the company, decides to make the parts, make them, right, under these conditions, the total relevant cost will be what? So relevant cost expected to make these switches. We do have, like I said, that product level cost for the supervisors. They had to hire a supervisor for $42,000. We'll have the material, labor, and overhead cost per unit times 16,000 units. What our yearly need is going to be. So that'll cost us $240,000. And then we've also got batch costs. We got 2 batches at $14,000 a batch. Those costs are going to be $28,000. So it looks like the total relevant costs to make this would be $310,000. So we can buy them for $26 a piece times 16,000 pieces that we need, and that'll be $416,000 versus making them at $310,000. That's over $100,000 savings, or another way to look at that, that's if we make them for $310 or we can buy them for $416, that's going to be like an additional 30-something% higher to buy them. So it looks to me like that we ought to try to make them if we think that that's something that we can do. Now, again, like I said earlier, the allocated factory level costs, that these up here, $29,000, are not relevant because the company will incur them whether they accept or reject this order. But I would probably have to start trying to make these things because you can make them for a lot less money.